And I'm like, oh man, this guy's going to be problematic.
It's the Johnny Goodtimes Fun Factory for May 20th, 2018. Andy, where the hell have we been, man?
Slacking.
Good God, I feel like it's all my fault. Is it all my fault?
No, I don't think it's all your fault. You know, stuff gets in the way, things happen.
Yeah, it's at least mostly my fault. I'm not going to take full responsibility, but I got to take at least 75%. I've been so bad about scheduling. What movies have we missed? We missed Black Panther. We did cover The Last Jedi last December. We missed Thor Ragnarok, which was a great film. We could have had a blast talking about that. Justice League, we didn't bother with that. I never saw it. It's been a while, dude.
Yeah.
We got lots of ammunition. We got to catch up now because it feels like everything is happening all at once.
I think you need to see Justice League. I'd like to get your thoughts on that.
You know, it's funny because my wife hasn't purchased a DVD or Blu-ray in the 13 years that we've been married. I can't think of one time she went to Walmart or Best Buy and brought home a movie. Just randomly, she bought Justice League, and she didn't even get it on Blu-ray. She got it on DVD. She just brought it home from the grocery store one day, and we haven't unwrapped it yet. I can't do it, man. I can't.
Well, let me give you my quick thoughts on that.
Okay.
I think after the success of Wonder Woman, I think they shoehorned a little bit of footage of hers in the beginning that was a little awkward. But in the whole, I think the movie kind of made a little bit of sense, and I enjoyed it.
The thought of spending another 2.5 hours in that bleak, depressing, where every superhero was brooding and they have daddy issues and all this stuff. Of course, in the case of BVS, it was mommy issues, I guess. But I can't find any inspiration to sit down and watch that movie. And it's sitting there. I mean, I can watch it whenever I want. I don't have to pay for it.
Let me put it this way. That was like the first movie I went and saw on these new Thursday night screenings they've been having. And that one, and I've seen that one on Thursday. I saw Black Panther on Thursday. I saw Thor Ragnarok on Thursday. I saw, Infinity War on the Thursday. I saw Deadpool on the Thursday. So I've seen basically all the comic book movies on that first opening Thursday. And for some reason, and I think it might be a little bit misguided, but that one got the most applause at the end. I'm not one that claps at the end of a movie, but Justice League got a lot of applause at the end of it just because I think everyone was expecting it to be absolutely sucky, and it wasn't.
Well, and you bring up a good point there, Andy. I mean, I think at this point, and like I said, I haven't seen Justice League yet, saw BVS, hated it. Thought Wonder Woman was very, very good. Felt like it was going to get everything back on track. I just think everyone has such low expectations for that franchise at this point. I don't hear anyone talking about Aquaman, do you?
No.
I haven't. Has there been any marketing for it? It's coming out this year, right?
I completely forgot about it until you just mentioned it. I have no idea.
I think it's coming out this year.
Well, I'll go see it.
But nobody's talking
I see
about
them
it,
all.
man. Nobody's talking about it. So, but that's where it's at. Of course, everybody's attention has been on the Marvel movies, which we'll get to in a little bit. But Andy, I want to touch on a subject we don't talk about as often as we should, given this is how we got to know one another. Let's talk a little bit of hockey before we dive into the movies. Man, the Golden Knights. What the hell? They're in the Stanley Cup Finals, man. What is going on? Did you have any feeling when Las Vegas announced they were getting a franchise, they did the big expansion draft, did it ever cross your mind that this team would represent the Western Conference in the Stanley Cup Finals?
It did not. But I will say that after that expansive draft and the things that corresponded after it, I was like, you know what? They're going to have a competitive team.
Yeah.
But that's as far as I was willing to take it.
Yeah, it's so weird, and I was talking about this with Mish and Brett, friends of the show, of course. They've both been on here, about this a little bit earlier. And I want to ask you, Andy, do you think it's good for the sport as a whole, the National Hockey League, which I think we can both agree is one of the least popular professional sports in North America? I think it's fair to say it's niche, wouldn't you?
Well, I wouldn't say North America. I'd say United States.
Yeah, United States. That's what I meant.
Yeah, I mean, it was real important for anyone that wants to, put money into an expansion team to see this and say, hey, we got a chance to compete right away.
Yeah. Yeah,
Because I mean, what do you talk? What I mean, I don't even know what that franchise cost, but I imagine it was $1 billion at least, right?
yeah. Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. And for me, Andy, the real question is: do you think it's good for the sport as a whole that a franchise, an expansion franchise? Because you remember how bad the Wild and the Blue Jackets and the Predators and the Atlanta Thrashers, the team that became the Winnipeg Jets, which were just eliminated this afternoon by the Vegas Golden Knights. They struggled for a decade before they found success. Do you think it's better that a team just is competitive right off the bat like this, or is this is it not paying their dues?
Well, I think it's better because this is Vegas.
Yeah.
And it's the first pro team in Vegas, and they wanted to get a winner out there right away, so maybe they changed the rules a little bit to accommodate that, but I'm fine with it.
Yeah. Yeah, if you were going to have a franchise find so much success in its first year, Vegas is the one to have with all the people coming in. They have a bad night at the gambling table. They decide to go check out a hockey game. I mean, it's building interest for fans that normally wouldn't gravitate towards the sport of hockey. And yeah, I'm fine with it. I think paying your dues is kind of an outdated principle, and I like that they found this success.
Yeah, so am I.
And it's kind of Pittsburgh West. You've got Derek England, you've got Marc-Andre Fleury, David Perron. Unfortunately, James Neal is going to be in the Stanley Cup Finals, which makes me want to puke. But, yeah, it's an easy team to root for. And, of course, Marc-Andre Fleury, as I just mentioned. How do you not like that guy?
Exactly.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just a good, feel-good story, and I'm happy for the Flower, and I hope they win it.
It does kind of make me sad, Andy, because one of my favorite shows that we did last year is the Stanley Cup back-to-back championships for our Penguins. We're not going to get to do that this year, which kind of sucks.
Well, I mean, it's the day was going to come. I mean, it's hard to win these things, and 2 in a row is awesome in this day and age, and to think that people are upset about, I understand people are upset that it came at the hands of the Capitals, a team that basically we get a lot of pleasure of owning. But it is what it is.
Yeah, it was weird. I forgot what it was like to see my team go through the handshake line as the losers.
I went into this season thinking that they wouldn't have gotten even as far as they did. So
yeah, I expected a first-round exit given how many games were on those players' legs. I mean, key guys like Crosby, Malkin, Phil Kessel has played a ton of games in the last 2 years. That stuff catches up with you. These guys are in great physical condition, but that's a lot of hockey, man.
Yeah, and it appeared to me that several of them weren't right.
Yeah.
And I guess maybe I haven't really been paying attention, so maybe some of it has come out already and I missed it. But I think Phil's probably banged up and not right. I think Letang is probably not right.
Malkin injured his knee supposedly when he slew-foot that guy.
But you hear, like, as soon as other teams get eliminated, all of a sudden you hear, oh, he had a broken shoulder, he was playing on an MCL, this and that. But you don't really hear that much from the Penguins because that's why I respect them. They don't like to make excuses, so it's good. So
yeah, honestly, hey, I expected him to go out
up next year and get after it.
Yeah, exactly. And everybody's bitching and moaning about the Brassard trade, but what people forget is Derek Brassard will be back next year. He's under contract, so that trade is going to pay dividends. He is a guy that it's been made public he was playing on a sore groin. He will contribute next year. It was still a good trade. Stop backtracking and complaining about that. I expected them to go out in the first round. It just so happened they ran into a Philly team that was not very good. And, they made it farther than I expected them to. I'm happy, man. I ain't mad.
Well, remember the Neal trade?
Mm-hmm.
If I'm not mistaken, when he first came in, they put him on that line with Kovalev when he was trying to make the comeback and everything.
That was so bad.
And it was just a bad line combination. And I said to everyone that was like going, "Oh man, Neil, they brought him in. He was supposed to be a hotshot." I was like, "Watch him next year." And then he had what 40 goals the
40
next
goals,
year,
yeah.
and then of course the spiral out of everyone's favor
Yeah,
happened
my
shortly
favorite.
after that.
He's
But
probably my least favorite Penguin of all time.
now I when they got rid of when they brought Sully in, I would have liked to seen what Sully would have did with him.
Yeah,
But they shipped it because he had a very friendly contract at the time. I would have liked to see. I would have liked to see what they could have done with him in that transfer of power. But I'm not the one making those decisions, and it looked like it was the right decision because of the end results. But hey,
and Hornquist, if we hadn't traded him, there'd be no Hornquist, and that guy has such a unique flavor to his game, and especially with Chris Kunitz gone, I'm not sure who really crashes the net if Patrick Hornquist isn't.
Oh yeah, and that guy appears like he loves to do it too.
Yeah, he's a weird dude, But they wouldn't have these last 2 Stanley Cups without him. He's a fantastic player.
Yeah.
So we move on to next year, but that's all right. But we are not here to talk about hockey. We were just going to use that as a bit of an icebreaker tonight. Andy, what did you think of the big movie that was released this week? I'm talking about Deadpool 2. Featuring Ryan Reynolds, came out on Thursday. I assume you saw it?
Yeah, I went to the 7:00 show on that Thursday. When I first got into the theater, I thought to myself, "Oh man, this movie's going to be in trouble," because there wasn't a whole lot of people in there at first. But I guess the new thing on movies now is to show up at 7:05 for a 7:00 showing. Because it filled up real quick.
So you're getting a lot of people walking in during the trailers then?
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, that upsets me a little bit, to be honest. And maybe I'm getting old, and I've always been kind of leaning toward the get off my lawn kind of thing. But geez, you can't get there 15 minutes before.
Well, for me, ever since I was a kid, going and eating the trailers, consuming the trailers with the movie was part of the entire experience. You get your snacks, you sit down, you see the big movie that's coming out in a couple of months, you see a trailer for that. That's all part of the experience. I don't know why you would want to buy your ticket and rob yourself of that.
Well, now I bury my nose in my phone for the Marvel trailers, but I will watch the other ones because I try, like any film that comes on that I know I'm going to go see, I'll bury my nose in my phone and won't pay attention to it.
I started bringing my headphones, my Bluetooth headphones, and I put them in for the trailers. And if it's a Marvel or a Star Wars movie, I will turn that on so I don't hear, and then I'll just keep my eyes down.
But then they played a trailer for the Queen biopic.
Yeah, that's a good trailer.
And I saw that, and I'll tell you what, I'm really looking forward to that. That was a movie that I figured that I'd go see because I have that movie pass, so why not?
Yeah.
But it wasn't high on my radar. But after seeing that trailer, that looked outstanding.
The way they mixed the songs in that trailer just had me and I'm not a Queen guy. I do not like the music of Queen. I respect the hell out of them as artists, but it's just not my cup of tea. But the way they mixed those songs together, from kind of cut them together almost so that was it came across as almost dubstep. And it was a badass trailer. I will see that movie.
Yes, I will as well. But I guess I got off track.
No, you were talking about people showing up late, and then I derailed you.
But I mean that's we'll touch on that later, I guess. Okay. But yeah, I did enjoy the film. I found it entertaining. I'll start off by saying I did not like it as much as the first one. I don't even think it's close. I see a lot of people on Twitter, but take that with a grain of salt anymore, that it was better than Infinity War, which we'll talk about. That's not true.
That's a bad take. That's a really bad take. That might be the worst take I've ever heard.
But I did enjoy it. I was watching it. It got to a point where I was entertained. I was watching it, and then I got to thinking, well, what's this movie about? Because they hadn't really established a plot yet. And I felt like taking my phone out of my pocket just to look at the time. just to see how far into the movie we were before I even knew what the plot of this was going to be. But I decided against it because, like, 2 seconds after that, I kind of figured out, okay, this is what they're going to try to make this movie into. And I thought that might have been a little bit of a mistake, but I think the slapstick humor and the one-liners and everything kept everyone engaged, and the violence kept everyone engaged up to that point. So I might have been the only one in the theater thinking that at the time.
Yeah, I don't disagree with anything you said there, Andy. I certainly do not think it's even close to the first film, which felt... and that's just, redundancy. Because this film doesn't do anything we didn't already see in the first Deadpool film. And, once you've seen it once, and I've noticed this on repeated rewatches of Deadpool, it's not as good with each viewing. And that's just by the very nature. It's a comedy, you know what the jokes are coming, you lose that shock value, and that applies to the violence as well. And this movie just didn't do anything that the first movie didn't do already. And I wasn't bored with it, but it felt very predictable to me.
Yeah. And the thing that I really liked about the first movie was when they did that elaborate bridge scene and he ends up in that dump truck.
Yeah.
And then he says, "How did I get here?" And then they do almost an origin story, and then back to the dump truck, and then the movie continues. I thought that was rather clever, and I thought it was a kind of like a way of telling a story that you don't see a whole lot in these superhero movies, and I really liked that. Now, they tried to duplicate it a little bit in this movie, but it fell short, I thought, because, like you said, they've already done it, so you were like, okay, now are we just going to copy the first one verbatim? But yeah, I was entertained. At no point was I like, okay, when's this thing going to end? And that's usually how I judge my movies, because a lot, like Batman vs. Superman, for God's sakes, I couldn't wait for that thing to be over.
It was 45 minutes too long.
I was like, okay, when am I getting out of here?
Yeah,
so I can do something decent.
I would have been fine with that movie ending before the entire Doomsday fight. If they would have cut all that stuff out, it would have been fine. But
at no point during this one was I like, okay, I got to get out of here. But it definitely didn't need to be 2 hours.
Yeah.
They went on and on with certain jokes that could have been cut a little shorter. The baby legs one went on.
That felt 15 minutes long. I know it wasn't that long, but we get it, and they kept having we should have said that they're spoilers, but you guys know by now. But it kept going, and then another character would come in, and the whole bit would start over again, and they did that a couple of times. It was an okay bit to start with. It did not need to be driven into the ground like that, and I get that that's part of Deadpool's character. He's obnoxious, he's annoying, and Ryan Reynolds really has embraced that character, and he does it perfectly. I can't imagine anyone else ever playing Deadpool. But it went on too long. The social justice warrior stuff, the Cable is racist thing, that's another one that was, okay, we get it. We don't need to keep going back to this.
And the trainee.
Yes. Oh God, yes.
But yeah, I mean, other than it almost took. I would bet it took an hour before you even knew what the plot of the movie was, because the opening, he's doing his mercenary work, which that's what he does. So you're like, okay, well, I'm fine with that, and then it transforms after that into. The girlfriend getting killed or wife, or they weren't married. Were they married? I don't even know.
No.
And then it's like, okay, now he's going to avenge the killers of that, and that didn't take long. And then
he went on the quest with the kid.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, he's going to try to change this kid's life. And that's like every movie ever made.
Yeah. So
okay, this is what's going to happen. So as soon as I realized what the plot was, okay, he's going to try to take this kid under his wings and change this kid's life, and then everyone is going to have a happy ending at the end. And then, I mean, it's never a happy ending with Deadpool, so.
Let me ask you this, Andy. Is it unfair of us, given, kind of the unique chunk of the comic book universe that this character sits in? I think we can both agree there is nothing like the Deadpool films out there right now. I mean, they're in their own unique. Are we unfairly judging Deadpool 2 against the other, like Infinity War and those type of films? I mean, is it unfair of us to expect these movies to have a decent, complicated plot?
We probably are.
I mean, could his nature, breaking down the fourth wall and the gruesome, over-the-top killing and the jokes and stuff, I mean, would that work in a more traditional kind of what we've come to expect from these films?
It wouldn't. No, it wouldn't. And you're right. I think we do, at least I unjudgely fare this, I unjudgely compare this to those. Because
it's hard not to.
I never read that book. That book came out after I was already out of comic books. So I don't know anything of Deadpool from reading comic books. And I understand that a lot of people now that are getting to the age where they've got a lot of disposable income read those books as a kid. So I'm not the demographic for this film. And I want everyone to know that because when they hear my critique of it, because I'm not the guy that's they're gearing it for, but you could still do that and still have a cohesive plot, I think.
Yeah, and throw in something a little bit more. It didn't have to be this predictable, I don't think. And I want to talk a little bit about Cable.
I mean, he was one of the writers, and he even made fun of it himself when he looked at the camera and said, "That's just lazy writing."
Yeah, he did that a couple of times. And like I say, that's part of the bit. I get that. But I just think, like, Cable, I was really, really excited about that. Josh Brolin killed it as Thanos a couple of weeks ago. He shows up again here. The character looks cool. He's got kind of like a robot eye and an arm and all that stuff. He looks like this badass from the future. And Andy, he travels back through time to do the exact same thing everybody does in time travel movies, to stop somebody from killing his family.
Yeah.
And it's just, I wanted so much more. They could have come up with something just a little bit different there,
Now, when the movie finally came to, like, the apex toward the end there, I was like, this was nothing but a setup for an X-Force movie. Mm. And because it introduced Cable and Domino, I would imagine they would both be in an X-Force movie. There's been talk about an X-Force movie for a really long time. And, this, I was like, is that all this was? Was just a glorified setup for this because the plot was so thin.
Yeah.
I mean, it didn't really set anything up for Deadpool 3. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I totally agree, and I'm totally buying what you're selling here. It does feel like this was almost like a trailer for the X-Force movie that you're talking about.
So we'll see what happens with that, and I hope they do good things.
Now, in the comic books, do Cable and Deadpool, do they team up at some point? They're on this X-Force thing?
Actually, I don't think Deadpool... I'd have to Wikipedia it, but I don't know if Deadpool's in X-Force. I mean, his second appearance is in one of the X-Force comics. His first appearance was in New Mutants 98. And I know that because I'm a collector, not a reader. I don't really read comic books anymore, but I do collect them. And I think his second appearance was X-Force. Cripe. It's escaping me right now. I got a ton of copies of it, but
Yeah.
it was so overprinted that it's not worth a whole lot. But he was in X-Force comics, but I don't know if he was technically a member of X-Force. I'd have to look that up.
I guess I went into the theater kind of thinking Cable was going to serve as the movie's antagonist, and he does for a good chunk of that. And I think the best parts of the movie are when Deadpool is taking on Cable. Cable is trying to take out this kid. Deadpool is trying to stop him. I feel like the movie has its best momentum when that is going on. And eventually Cable joins forces with Deadpool and his team. They can kind of unite and stop this kid from committing his first murder. And I just wish he would have stayed as the bad guy for a little bit longer. I feel like they only had one or two good fight scenes, and then they're just like, let's put this behind us and work together. And that's when the movie was at its best.
Yeah, true. I would agree with that but no one, even though I don't read the comics, I do know a lot about the characters because of collecting them.
Yeah.
I knew he wasn't technically a villain, so I knew at some point it was going to switch. So I don't know how many people outside walking into that film knew that as well. So I don't know.
To me, Cable felt the character I kept thinking of while I was watching it. He's clearly an anti-hero of sorts.
Yeah.
I kept thinking of Frank Castle, the Punisher.
Yeah.
He's kind of got that vibe where he does terrible things, but he does them by adhering to a moral code that you can actually relate to. I'm not saying Frank Castle is a good guy, but you understand why he does all the things that he does, and I got the same vibe from Cable.
That's actually a really good analogy, I think.
Well, thank you. What did you think? So they team up, and then the movie kind of shifts gears. And you can't have, this kid as the main bad guy, because the kid is what? He's like 12, 13?
Yeah, I'm not sure what age they were portraying. No more than 15.
He's too young to be like, screw this kid, I hope Deadpool kills him. So they introduce another beloved X-Men character. They bring in the Juggernaut, just kind of out of the blue. Andy, what did you think about him popping in this movie? It just felt very random to me.
That felt random, but I think it fit. I thought they shoehorned T.J. Miller into this a little bit more than they needed to.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he served a purpose in the first film, but he felt shoehorned into this film to me. But I had no problem with the Juggernaut stuff per se, because he always wanted to, ever since he got into that prison, he was like, you got to find the biggest guy, and you got to either make friends with him or kick his ass.
Yeah.
And then that one guy punched him several times in the face. So that was kind of funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, that team up seemed natural almost to me.
Okay.
So I didn't have a problem with that. So I don't know. And it looked like at the end of the movie he was coming out of the pool.
Yeah.
So I guess they're going to call this the XCU. So he's not done yet. So that's good, because that would have been a hard throwaway. I like that character, and to just kill him off would have been a shame.
Yeah, he was crawling out of the pool, so he's definitely going to be sticking around. I want to talk to you a little bit about the climax of the film. Deadpool is apparently dying. He has given up his rejuvenating powers. He's got a collar on his neck that takes away his magic powers. He can't heal himself at that point. He is going to die. Cable, who has traveled back in time to save his family, he's only got 2 charges on his time travel device. He's already used one of them to travel back in time. He sacrifices the opportunity to return to the future, which has now been repaired. His daughter and his wife are waiting for him to save Deadpool. Andy, do you think his relationship was strong enough at that point that he would sacrifice that reunion with his family to save this guy?
No, and that was they needed to build that up better because it wasn't. And I didn't buy that.
Yeah, it took what should have been a very powerful moment in the film, and it was. I'm not going to say it was laughable, but it broke that sense of disbelief for me. I'm like, this is not this. I'm watching a movie. I'm checked out of this scene. It's just not realistic. There's no way he would go to all this trouble and sacrifice all this stuff. He talks about how painful it is to travel through time, to go and do all this, fix the future, and then he does not go back to reunite with his family. It just I did not like that part.
Yeah, I mean, at that part they didn't know. I mean, they were now on the same mission for what, 10 minutes of the film, 15 minutes of the film, once they figured out what was going on. Yeah, that wasn't I didn't buy it, but that's how these films do it.
Yeah. I mean, and again, I feel like people are going to listen to this and they're going to say, oh, these guys hated the film. That's not the case. It was a good movie. I would give it I said on Twitter, I give it a B to a B+. It does not reach the heights of the previous film. It's not a terrible movie.
You know what it is? It's a movie for this generation of people that deal with 140 characters for everything that they do in life.
I'm not entirely sure what that means, but I'm just going to go ahead and agree with you because it does make sense. I mean,
it was a series of very short, satisfactory,
Yeah, it almost felt like 3 or 4 mini movies tacked together into a total film, and then here we go. You remember when we were kids, the Warner Brothers, the cartoons, Bugs Bunny and stuff. It feels like that. How you'd get like a half-hour episode and it'd be like 4 or 5 of those little chunks. That's what Deadpool 2 felt like to me, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just when you walk out of the theater, it's kind of difficult to process what you just saw because there's nothing really tying those moments together.
Yeah, and a lot of what I do is a comic book collector, not a reader. I'm going to say that again because people are going to listen to this and go, "This guy doesn't know what he's talking about." I don't read the comics. I just collect them. And one of the things that I saw spike was the Hope Summers comics started spiking a little bit, and that's Cable's daughter. So now she's been introduced into the X-Men universe. So there's been a lot of movement in her books. So,
Andy, you keep talking about how we're neither, and I'm not a reader either. I haven't read a comic book in quite a while. But I almost think that makes us, like, our perspective on these things is more relatable it applies more to, like, the general audience.
Oh, yeah. I think the general audience doesn't read comic books.
No, the vast majority of people that are going to see Deadpool 2, I didn't know who Cable was before this. I didn't know who Deadpool was before the first movie. We're going in fresh. So, I mean, I really do think the perspective that we're offering here is more authentic to what most users are going into the theater with that perspective. And, that's great. And I'm not knocking people that read the comic books. You guys are far more knowledgeable with this stuff. But I also think it's unfair to get everything. I mean, it's a book. It's a comic book that has been going on for decades. You can't get all that stuff shoved into a 2.5-hour film. It just doesn't work. Yeah,
unless you pick a certain arc.
Yeah, and they've done a pretty good job of that.
And that's what I think the Marvel TV shows do a good job of. They kind of pick an arc of a book, and then they kind of curtail the story around that.
Yeah,
and I think that's been very, very successful because I've liked most of the Netflix series.
Oh yeah, they've been great. Now, Andy, with the lukewarm reception of last year's X-Men Apocalypse and the fact that Dark Phoenix has now got pushed to 2019, I think it's February of next year, is it safe to say that Deadpool is Fox's marquee superhero franchise?
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, I just looked up the numbers. It did $125 million this weekend.
$3 million worldwide.
Oh, really?
That's insane. Yeah, domestic. That's the domestic number, but 300 million factoring in overseas. That's insane, man.
Yeah, for an R-rated movie that you know, and judging by the buzz on it on the internet, no one's saying, "Hey, the plot was thin, maybe too many jokes." So I think we're in the minority.
Yeah.
I think it's going to rev up.
Yeah, I mean, and again,
I think the word of the mouth is going to be like, you know what? It's really funny. The jokes were great, and hey, I want to see these superhero movies flourish because I want to see more of them.
It'll be interesting.
They're the movies I enjoy to go to.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the drop off is going to be because I'm not sure this is a movie that is as enjoyable on a rewatch. You know, going and seeing it the second times. Plus, they're working against the fact that Solo comes out next week, and you know, there's going to be a lot of people. The same people that see Deadpool are going to go want to see Solo. So I think the drop off could be quite dramatic. But I mean, the drop off from 300 million, even if it drops down 50%, I mean, that's still a lot of money, man.
Well, I think they spent 110 on it, so it's already profitable.
It's nuts. The current Metacritic score on it is 66. Rotten Tomatoes has it at 83%. Those numbers are almost identical to the first film. So, I mean, it's performing critically as good as the first one did. So, you can't... I mean, it's good.
What was the audience score on that?
I didn't look up the audience score. I didn't look it up.
That's what I like to look at.
Yeah.
I don't... The critics score, I think these critics are bought and paid for.
I do agree. A year ago, I would have called you paranoid and get your tinfoil hat out. But you're right. I mean, this stuff is... whether it's video games, TV shows, movies, comic books, I do not trust critics anymore. Everybody is shilling for somebody, and it's just I'm just done with it. You know,
it's got an 86% audience score,
so that's even better.
Yeah,
so it's good. I mean, it's a good movie. I highly recommend it, especially if you liked the first one. You're gonna like the second one.
It's a fun movie. I mean, it's a fun ride.
Yeah, from
start to finish, you're gonna enjoy it.
Yep. Yeah.
I mean, if you're someone that is deep into plots, and I mean, you're gonna feel like I did, but I still liked it.
Do you think this plot was any shallower than the first one, though?
Oh yeah, much.
You do? Okay.
Yeah, much. Because was it the plot in the first one where he was looking for the people that messed him up?
Yeah, he was gonna kill Ajax.
Yeah. So at least from the start, you knew. At least from the time he was laying in the dumpster bed after they did the origin story, you knew what the plot was going to be.
Well, it was just the one plot. You know, he wasn't, 1 minute trying to assemble X-Force, and now he's, trying to save the kid. Now he's trying to stop the kid. Now he's fighting Cable. It just was kind of... this movie almost felt like there was 3 or 4 writers on it. Whereas the first one was very, linear. It's a typical revenge story. Those aren't necessarily that sexy anymore. But it was very coherent and straight to the point.
Yeah.
It had no fat on it. This movie was like going to Sizzler and getting a steak and having, kind of cut through the grizzle and stuff. The first movie is very lean.
They shoehorned the girl from the first one into it.
That whole thing felt very awkward.
They shoehorned her into it. They shoehorned T.J. Miller, I think, to a certain extent into it.
Yeah, and I have to wonder what his future is with the franchise.
I really liked the little Asian girl that was dating the girl from the first one.
Negasonic Teenage Warhead.
Where he would be like, bye, every time. She'd be like, oh, he's so great. Yeah. And she'd be like, wait till you get to know him. Yeah. And every time they left, she would say, bye, Deadpool. And then he'd be like, bye, whatever her name. I really liked that part.
Yeah, that's a bit they kept going back to that actually worked, and it was funny.
Yeah, that one was, I thought, not only cute but just funny because it really pissed the other girl off.
Yeah,
he lives to piss her off.
Yeah, that's a great bit they have going on.
Yeah,
we can't shut the door on Deadpool without talking about one of the better post-credit scenes I've seen in these movies in a long time. This might be the best. This might be the best one of the whole bunch.
That was the best part of the movie.
It was great. It was so good. It was absolutely perfect. Andy, why don't you give us a recap of what happened?
So they did the post-credit screen or the post-credit scene, and what was the first part seemed like it was a little bit more serious, and then all of a sudden he comes in and just starts shooting people up. He cleaned up the continuity, and he kills himself from Wolverine. He kills the Green Lantern.
Oh, that was great, yeah. He's reading the script, he's all excited, he's going to sign on for his big break, and that's going to make him, he's going to be on the map, and he's dead. Killed by his future self as a comic book character. It was so perfect. Oh, I loved it.
Oh, that was awesome.
The entire theater was laughing. It was the best post-credit scene. I've kind of gotten tired of the post-credit scenes. It feels like the Marvel ones in particular have stopped being relevant. I remember that horrible one at the end of Spider-Man Homecoming where it was Captain America talking about, it was like the instructional video.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I stuck around to the end for this. And I get that was the point. I guess that I understand that was supposed to be funny, but it just left a sour taste. And this one was just really, really good, and I really liked it. And I left the theater with a little hop in my step after seeing that.
Now he went back in time and saved his girlfriend, so now she's back into the movies.
Mm-hmm.
So
good stuff. So anything else you want to say about Deadpool?
No, I think that closes the book on Deadpool.
We both recommend it.
Yeah.
So
I mean, get out and see it.
Yeah.
I mean, don't take our words for it, man.
Yeah.
See it yourself.
Yeah, I don't think either of us have the intention of swaying anybody's opinion on here. We are just offering up our takes on it. If you're going to let two strangers on the internet tell you what to see and what not to see, you got to change your ways, man.
Yeah.
Don't take our advice on this stuff. All right, Andy, we have one more bit of business to do. A movie that is, my God, is this movie 3 weeks old already?
Oh, I bet you it's longer than that.
It's got to be coming up on a month. And, of course, we are talking about Avengers Infinity War. Andy, I will admit that after Spider-Man Homecoming and particularly Black Panther, I had found myself somewhat exhausted with the MCU films. I didn't bother with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. this year. I dropped that from my DVR.
I've watched it. I've continued watching it.
But, man, I tell you, Infinity War, the third Avengers film, has completely reinvigorated my interest in these movies. Now, Andy, nobody is going to question that this is the biggest event in the genre so far. But where do you consider this to fit amongst the films in terms of quality when we're talking the Marvel Cinematic Universe?
I went and saw it the first time, and I immediately put it at number 1.
No.
I thought it was close to perfect. And then I saw it a second time, and that assessment stood up. So it is my favorite MCU movie.
Right to the top.
Yep.
Right away.
Yep.
Yeah, are you sure? Now, you're kind of running to the risk of, letting yourself get exposed to the latest and greatest. Are you worried at all maybe you're getting caught up in the hype here?
I would have went and saw it a third time, but I'm going to wait and do that viewing at home because sometimes at home you get a better idea. Once I see it at home, I'll reevaluate.
Because remember, we're living in a world here where Guardians of the Galaxy exists, Winter Soldier exists, the original Iron Man, which is 10 years old already. Can you believe that?
The thing about it is when I go through all the boxes that I check for these movies, like anyone that's listened to this podcast knows that I always say it gets a little hokey at the end. That's like my catchphrase.
Yeah.
Because all of them get a little hokey at the end. But when this one got a little hokey at the end, well, if you're listening to this, you already know what happened at the end. So that's, to me, and the fact that I stayed away from the spoilers, because I still thought that the original method of the movies was going to be a 2-movie. I didn't realize until after the fact that the Russo brothers started saying, no, this is going to be a standalone, and then we're going to do the next one. So I still was going into this movie thinking this was going to be 2 movies. So I didn't think Thanos was going to get all 6 stones in this movie, which was big. And for people that are into spoilers, that are into all that, that's a big thing. When you go into a movie thinking that it's still going to be, part 1, part 2, I'm like, there's no way Thanos is getting all 6 stones in this. And then as soon as he got all 6 stones, I was like, oh man, something bad's going to happen. And I'm glad that I don't watch spoilers or read up on anything and all of that. Respect to those that do that. That's your prerogative. But, man, do yourself a favor and don't do that, man, because I was shocked.
Yeah, it's the only way to watch movies for me. I don't want to know. I was a little bit pissed, Andy, because I accidentally saw an Infinity War trailer. I think it was at The Last Jedi. And I couldn't get up out of my seat fast enough. I didn't have my headphones with. And I saw the shot where the guy is at some point in the movie, Vision has like a human form because he's meeting up with the Scarlet Witch and they're dating, and he's assumed he looks like a real person. Yeah. And there was a shot of that in the trailer, and I was so fucking pissed because I'm like, well, that means the Infinity Stone gets propped out of his head, and that scene is now ruined for me. Why would you put that in the trailer? I'm really mad now. But that ended up not being the application, and that happens early in the film, and I was quite relieved when I saw that that's not what happened. That was just like a mirage.
Yeah.
But, it's the only way to see films, man. I'm with you. I don't want to know anything about this stuff, and this movie had so many surprises in it. Who the hell saw Red Skull coming back?
Yeah.
I totally forgot about that guy.
And everyone was like, oh, that was just shoehorned in there. No, I think it made sense.
It was perfect. It was perfect. How long have we been wondering? I think you and Stevie and me have discussed that in the past. Like, whatever happened to that guy? Is he going to make an appearance again? And he is. I mean, it's a different actor, but you can't tell.
Well, you put enough makeup on anyone. I could go in as Clooney.
I would like to see that. Did you recognize who it was?
I did not.
It was the guy from Walking Dead. Well, I can't remember what his name is now. Aaron, I think, from The Walking Dead. One of the survivors from Alexandria.
Oh,
he's the new Red Skull.
Okay.
He's Red Skull now. I couldn't tell, man. Oh, I was so excited when that happened.
The gay guy.
Well, yeah, the gay guy. Okay. Yeah, I thought it was when you see that.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
There is nothing wrong with that. But when you see his silhouette, didn't you assume that was death? Because that's like that's a thing with Thanos, right?
Yeah.
I thought there's death, and it was Red Skull, and it was so perfectly awesome. That would have sucked if that got ruined. Oh, it was such a good movie. And, I mean, Andy, if you take a step back and look at what they've accomplished, I mean, they've done this. Iron Man, the film that started it all, is 10 years old this year. That came out in 2008. 18 movies. This is number 19. Such an impressive achievement that they pulled this off. Over 20 A-list heroes. I'm talking Captain America, Star-Lord, Drax. All these guys pop up. They get stuffed into this movie. It didn't feel like anybody got shortchanged. It didn't feel like any of the characters didn't get ample screen time in this. It felt like everybody got to star.
I agree. And everyone's like, well, Captain America didn't say this and that and this and that. I was like, well, it wasn't a Captain America story.
Yeah.
This was a Thanos story. And I think it was near perfect. I have like little nitpick things for every single movie, and I had a hard time finding one for this one.
I can't think of any.
The only one that I had a problem was the motion capture on Proxima Midnight bothered me.
Now, which
but
one is
other
that
than
now?
that?
Is that the guy who kidnaps Doctor Strange?
No, that's the she ends up getting killed. She was in the fight scene in Scotland.
She got killed by Scarlet Witch.
Scarlet Witch.
I know the one you're talking about. Okay.
Yeah. And if that's the only nitpick thing I can come up with, you've done a hell of a job.
The only gripe I could come up with, Andy, is when Thor reappears on the battlefield in Wakanda, and he comes crashing in from the Bifrost. He's got his new axe hammer. Why the hell didn't they play Immigrant Song? That would have been so perfect.
Oh,
that's the only gripe I can come up with.
I thought about that myself.
Yeah, it's like after all the strength of Ragnarok, and that was just such a perfect song for him. That would have been such a great way to tie those movies together. I ain't mad about it. It still worked, but man, I want an Immigrant Song. It's like pay the royalties. Led Zeppelin needs to get paid.
Yeah, exactly. Bonham could use a check.
Yeah. Ooh, that's hard.
Soon?
Man. Wait, well, that's only been, 40 years? Yeah, I don't think that falls under too soon anymore. I did feel like the real stars that stood out in this movie, the cast is well represented. We talked about that. But I really feel like the main players in this one were Iron Man, Doctor Strange, Thor, and surprisingly, the Guardians of the Galaxy. Those guys seem to really, story-wise, drive the story forward.
I thought that the Olsen kid...
Oh, Scarlet Witch?
I thought she was the most important person on Earth in that movie.
No? Because of removing the stone?
Well, removing the stone. She killed Proxima Knight. She was up in the area of Wakanda, trying to get that stone taken out of Vision. And then all of a sudden she came down and just started kicking ass. And the chick from The Walking Dead was like, "Why's she been up there the whole time?" I think that was the best line of the whole movie. It's like, okay, we had that. Why was she up in the thing the whole time?
Yeah, well, and I know Casey has brought this up to me before. I mean, I think she is at this point regarded as the most powerful of these superheroes, right?
Well,
she's basically unstoppable.
The ones that they have shown so far.
Yeah.
I mean, we haven't seen Captain Marvel yet.
Yeah, and obviously we'll talk about that at the end here, but she's coming up soon. What did you think about the comedy in this one? I'm speaking specifically about the moments between Rocket Raccoon and Thor and Star-Lord. Man, there was some really good moments, some really great exchanges there.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
That was just like a jealous boyfriend dealing with the next guy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like whenever you see that meme where it's like the one you're talking to versus the one that you should be worrying about or whatever that is, that pulled me in, and I'm like, okay, so that's what that means. Okay, so now we're okay.
You know, the turnaround that Thor has made in this universe is just a complete 180 for what he was in his first two movies. Way too serious. Just not a fun character. I'm not going to bash on the first two Thor movies any more than we already have, although Dark World is the worst movie in the MCU.
I would agree with that.
He has become, I don't know, it's like Chris Hemsworth enjoys the role now. You know, it's like he was trying to figure. It was like he was very uptight before, and it's like he's just having fun with it now.
Well, I don't know if he had much choice in that.
Okay.
I mean, a lot of times the writers.
100%.
Your writers and your directors.
I'm not blaming him at all. I think it's the material, and I think it's the directing.
I think the Russo brothers let you go a little loose.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, if you think this scene can work better with something that you do, throw it in there, and then we'll evaluate it.
Yeah.
I think
they are the absolute masters of this genre. They know the MCU better than anybody else. I mean, you compare this Avengers movie with Avengers Age of Ultron. I mean, look at the ridiculous increase in quality, both storytelling, acting, all that stuff. This is just such it's a more powerful film, and it's 1,000 times more fun.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I had a lot of fun watching that movie.
It's a 2-hour and 40-minute movie, and it honestly, it feels like it's 90 minutes. I mean, it just flies by. You're never once bored. You spoke a little bit earlier, Andy, about checking your phone for what time it was at Deadpool. Are you ever inspired to take your eyes off the screen in Infinity War?
Nope.
Yeah, it's just there is no moment where the pace does not move. It's so perfect.
And I'll tell you what, there's no doubt that Thanos is the best villain in the MCU.
Amazing.
No doubt.
Amazing.
I mean, the one thing about Black Panther, after I saw that, I was like, that's a really good movie. And everyone started talking about Michael B. Jordan being the best Marvel villain of all time. I was like, man, the guy was hardly in that movie. But every time he was on there, he shined. I'm not going to doubt that.
Yeah.
And so the second time I went and saw Black Panther, I put my phone on my leg, and as soon as he came on the movie, I hit the stopwatch. And when he left, I shut it off. And I did that the whole movie. He was on screen for 30 minutes, a Black Panther. And I thought that was, wow. That's surprising that a guy can steal a movie and only be in like a quarter of it.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah, I would have expected much more than that.
That's a credit to his acting ability.
He was awesome in that. He was the best part of Black Panther. You know, when I talk about Black Panther, and I did not love it as much as most people did. I thought it was a good movie. Anybody that talks about it being the best Marvel movie is nuts. It's a middle tier movie. It's good, but I kind of compare it to Batman '89. You know, where Jack Nicholson stole the show, his Joker. I think he even got top billing in that film. The villain in Black Panther is just a lot more interesting than the hero. And it kind of does the movie a bit of a disservice. You know, I didn't feel like Black Panther was nearly as captivating as Killmonger was in that film, despite the fact that, like you said, Andy, he's only on screen for 30 minutes.
Yeah. Now, I saw Black Panther, I think, 3 times. And I think I have it higher rated than you, Josh, and there was somebody else putting a list out.
Eric.
Is it Eric?
Yeah.
I have it higher than you guys do, but I don't have it. I mean, it might be in my top 5.
I've seen it twice now, and I liked it a lot more the second time.
It was. I really enjoyed it.
So you were talking about. Go ahead.
We should have did one on that.
We should have. We
got the ball on that.
I saw it.
Sorry, guys.
I saw it.
Sorry, regular listeners.
I saw it so late. I only saw that probably a month before Infinity War. I just didn't get around to it. You were talking about Thanos, and I think one of the best things about Thanos is that there was actually logic. His plan is insane. His plan is to wipe out half the population. But he had like a legitimate motivation behind that. And that just makes he just felt so real.
Yeah, the thing that I like about Thanos is that he's a villain, but he thinks that he's not a villain.
Yeah.
And that is very rare in any movie you will ever see. Usually the bad guys know that they're bad guys. And he thinks he's doing... And then somebody said, well, why doesn't he just snap his fingers and add more resources to, you know... You got the woke people of Marvel that are like, well, why didn't he just snap his fingers and get more resources for everyone that's already here instead of killing everyone? And that's a question I can't answer.
Yeah, but would that make for a very interesting movie?
No.
I mean, the whole point is that he's going to cost the lives of half the population. I mean, this is a movie we're watching here, folks. I mean, you got to kind of dial back the logistics just a little bit and have some fun. I mean, he's supposed to be the bad guy, and it worked so well. I mean, he had genuine pain on his face, and the fact that this is a CG character makes it even more impressive. He felt terrible about having to sacrifice Gamora.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, she talked about his tears not being real. Those tears were real.
That was another thing that some of the podcasts I listened to had trouble with.
Him killing her?
Yeah, well, her still thinking of him as a father figure after everything he did to her.
Yeah.
They started bringing the Me Too movement into it, and I was like, okay,
yeah.
Can we just separate?
No, some people can't. Some people just can't.
It's a movie.
yeah, you just we got to do an entire podcast on that at some point. So we talked a little bit about Gamora's death. Now let's do a quick rundown of main characters that we lose in here, Andy. We lose Loki, Heimdall, Gamora, Vision, Black Panther, Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, Bucky Barnes, Falcon, Scarlet Witch, Groot, Star-Lord, Drax, Mantis, and in the post-credit scene, we lose Nick Fury and Maria Hill. Andy, obviously, most of those characters are not staying dead.
No. I mean, like I said, I stay clear of spoilers and all that, so I thought this was going to be a 2-movie cycle. I didn't think Thanos would get all 6 in the first movie. Obviously, he did. I told my friend, once he got that 6th stone, I figured something like this was going to happen. Now, what they're going to do is that time stone is going to end up. They're going to make it all right.
Yeah. Well, they have to. I mean, you've only got one entry in Spider-Man, Black Panther, and Doctor Strange. These are money makers. I think Spider-Man and Black Panther, they've already announced sequels are in the works. Unless you're going to do a prequel somehow. Well, those characters are coming back.
You're sure as shitting doing a sequel to Black Panther.
Yeah.
That thing did what, 800?
Yeah. It's already in the works. Doctor Strange, I don't know what's going on with that, but they're not done with these characters.
I like the fact that they made him more of a centerpiece in this because he's a complex character. When I was a younger kid, I didn't get his book. Yeah. I wasn't smart enough. I was a young kid reading comic books. I didn't get Doctor Strange. So Doctor Strange wasn't a book I read. But I was aware of Doctor Strange. And I'm glad they gave him his dues here in this one. He was a integral part of this movie.
He played a way bigger role than I expected him to.
If not, I still think Thor was the biggest. I think Iron Man might have been second. Strange third, and Scarlet Witch. And she was the only one on Earth at the time. So I think on Earth, Scarlet Witch was the most important character on Earth.
I'd agree with that.
So,
yeah, we'll see. I mean, I did not expect. I mean, I thought the movie was wrapped up. You know, if she took the stone out of Vision. I mean, obviously he was going to pop up. He was going to rewind time. But I certainly did not expect that many people to die. Spider-Man's death in particular was very hard to watch, to see that young man beg for his life to his, father figure, essentially, Tony Stark. Tough to watch, even though these guys are going to come back in some shape or form. To lose so many characters that we've fallen in love with over the years, it was tough, man.
Yeah, but it's all going to be reversible, so if... Like I think I saw somebody post something on Twitter where their kid was crying for a couple of days.
Okay, well that might be a bit much, but
well, don't let your kid cry for a couple of days. Say, hey, they're gonna fix it in the next movie.
I really hope that they. I hope they find some way to fix it without using the time stone, because that seems way too simple. If they just rewind time. Well, what do we know what happened to the Infinity Stones? Were they destroyed when he snapped his fingers?
Well, see, I never read that arc of the there's an Infinity Gauntlet.
Because the Gauntlet is all messed up. That thing was like wrecked.
Yeah, there's an Infinity Gauntlet storyline in the comics. I never read it. Maybe I will get the trade paperback that has all of them in succession, and I'll read it and I'll see how they did it in the comics. But I think they brought back most of the people in the comics in that storyline, which I would imagine they're using as a guideline for this. So we'll see.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I just hope they find it creative. But, I mean, if it's in the hand of the Russo brothers, I have no doubt. After seeing this movie, Winter Soldier, Civil War, I'm not going to question anything these guys do. I have the utmost faith in them. They might be the best storytellers in the film industry right now.
I wouldn't argue that. But the thing about this movie, I got there maybe 6:30. I figured I'll get a good seat. I go high because a lot of people don't like to go high. So I went, I think there were 2 rows behind me in the theater. And I go center. So I'm center screen, 2 rows down from the top. No one no one near me. All of a sudden, people start funneling in. This guy sits behind me, and he's yapping the whole way through everything. And I'm like, oh, man, this guy's going to be problematic. But I was like, maybe he'll shut up during the movie. I was wrong about that.
Yeah.
But everyone sat. I still had a seat to the left of me and to the right of me, empty. We're already 20 minutes into the movie. They bring this couple. The one sits on the left of me, the one sits on the right of me. I'm in the middle. They decide, like, toward the end of the movie, that they're going to start talking amongst themselves. In between me. I'm like, this is a horror show. And the guy behind me felt the need to verbally say every one-liner that was funny. And then laugh at it.
Oh, my God.
And then I had 2 guys sitting in front of me looking at their cell phones the whole movie. I think they were recording it. It was a horror show. I was like, I gotta go see this movie again.
What the fuck is wrong with people? I mean, what does it cost you to go see a movie? $16 for a evening showing? Why would you pay that shit and sit in there and talk? I don't get it.
Well, I told the guys in front of me to put their cell phones away, and the guy sitting next to me, when I still had the empty seat, hit me on the shoulder and said, "Thank you." Because that's distracting.
Yeah, well, it's terrible.
Like the cell phone's in front of you. You're like, okay.
It's a bright light in the dark theater. It's terrible. So did they put them away when you asked them to?
Yeah, they did.
Okay, props to them for that.
And they were like looking at me like, oh, who's, I felt like Clint Eastwood in fucking Gran Turismo. And then the guy would recite like Thor, like if Thor would say something funny, he would reiterate the line and then laugh at it again. He would laugh at it, reiterate the line, and laugh at it again.
That's awful.
And I turned around. I was going to say something to him, but man, he was big.
Oh shit!
I wasn't in the mood to get my ass kicked that day.
No.
I was like, you know what? I'll just pay the money to go see it another time.
So this was on your first viewing, though.
Oh yeah.
That's the worst because you only get to watch the movie the first time once. That fucking guy wrecked it for you.
Oh man, my first viewing of Infinity War was the worst movie experience I've ever had in my entire life.
Oh man, I'm sorry.
And you know what? And I said, you know what? I get that for going to the Thursday night show. And Deadpool. Okay. So I go to Deadpool on the Thursday night. And there's a girl behind me. And every single joke, whether it be funny or not, she cackled like it was the funniest thing she ever heard in her life. And there was one particular joke, and I can't even remember what it was, that wasn't particularly funny.
Probably the little kid legs.
And she was laughing like it was like, and I felt like turning around and saying, really? That one? That one too? So, I'm not going to do Thursday nights anymore.
It sounds like it brings out the real morons.
Yeah, it brings out the worst of the worst. I mean, everyone that's there wants to see the movie, and that's great because we need to boost the movie ratings.
Yep, or they won't make more of them.
Yeah. But I think I'm going to go back to watching the 4 o'clock show on a Friday.
Yeah, that I find that's what I do, Andy, is I usually go in the afternoon to the matinee. It's not only cheaper, but it seems to me like there's less morons. Because people are either at school, they're at work. People like to make an event of it. They like to go out to dinner and then go to the movie and go out for drinks afterwards. You don't get any of that shit in the afternoon show.
Yeah.
The only downside is you have to go from the dark theater out into the bright light, and I always forget my sunglasses, and then I'm blind for a half hour. But I'm sorry that happened to you, man. I legitimately mean that, too. That sucks, because, I mean, this is like a big event, and that guy wiped his ass with your ticket, and it sucks.
Oh, it was bad. The Infinity War was the worst.
You were ready to start an Infinity War with that guy.
That was the worst movie experience I've ever had in my entire life.
It was like the biggest movie of the year, too.
Man.
Well, it must feel good to get that off to your chest, though.
No, it did.
Well, the movie currently has a Metacritic score of 68. Rotten Tomatoes has it at 84. Andy, we discussed earlier that you do not like critics. I'm sorry I do not have the audience rating on those. But here's the big number. Worldwide, this movie has made $1.8 billion. $1.8 billion a comic book movie has made. This shit's big, man.
Wow. Wait a minute. The critic score 68?
68, yeah.
On Infinity War?
Yeah, 68 for Metacritic.
Oh, Rotten Tomatoes has it at 84.
Yeah, that's rotten. Yeah, I got that one too. But yeah,
the audience score is 92. All right, that sounds about right.
Yeah, 68 is still a good score on Metacritic. I mean, that's in the green. It's just not, it doesn't sound.
For shits and giggles, I'm going to put in Last Jedi.
Have you bothered with that one again since you saw it in the theater, or have you just seen it the one time?
I'll tell you what, I saw it 3 times in the theater because everyone was talking about how great it was, and I needed to keep seeing it because obviously I was missing something.
Yeah, I'm still missing it. I've seen it 4 times now.
You know what? I'll go to the theater and see it 10 more times.
Whatever everybody else is seeing, it's not there because I don't see it either.
It's bad. It's a bad movie.
Yeah, it's the worst It's one of the worst Star Wars movies. I won't put it below Phantom Menace.
46%.
Yeah, it's just it just wasn't that good.
You know what? The critics are giving it 91.
Yeah, there you go. There's your. Do you need any more evidence? We don't need any more evidence. There it is, right there. It's an okay movie. It's okay. I've seen it 4 times now. I like it less at reviewing. It's the opposite of most of
movies. Man. Every time I see it, it's like, wow, I missed that.
Yep.
That was bad.
It's just, there's more problems every single time I see it. I just don't like it. Nobody's going to convince me it's a good movie. I'm not trying to be stubborn. I just do not see. There's so many fucking plot holes in that movie. And I don't want to be told I need to read the novelization or look up a comic book or any of that shit. When I sit down to watch The Last Jedi, it's got a lot of fucking plot holes in it, and that's the experience I'm talking about. The movie. There shouldn't be plot holes in the movie. There's a lot of plot holes in that movie.
Oh, that movie was bad.
Well, hopefully next week we
got up out of it. You know what? I actually think that Solo's going to be halfway decent.
I do. The reviews have been good, but again, who knows what that's going to mean? But we are going to find out, and you're not going to see that on Thursday, I'm guessing.
I am.
Well, you just got done saying that. It's upsetting you.
But my boss is a big Star Wars guy.
Okay. Are you going to the 4 o'clock show though?
No, we're going to the 10.
Oh no, that's gonna be that brings out the real morons. They've had some drinks in them. They're all fired up.
Well,
it's gonna be rough. Well, our plan is to podcast on that with Ernest, who joined us for The Last Jedi. That worked out so well last time. He's gonna come back on this time. Based on the trailers, I'm skeptical. I don't think the trailers have been particularly good. But we'll see. I mean, it's getting decent reviews, but who knows what...
I'll tell you what, I really haven't seen a full trailer. I mean, I've seen them and I've heard them. I usually try to keep my eyes covered when I'm at the movies and they play the trailer. I try to either engage myself. You know what I find helps me? I start tweeting at Brett.
Yeah.
When I'm at the movie.
Like him specifically.
Yeah. I say, you know what? Cubs Corner. Hashtag. And it gets me through.
So anytime I see that now, I'm gonna be like, well, he's at the movies. He's avoiding the new Ant-Man and Wasp trailer. Well, we'll see. I mean, like I said, I'm cautiously optimistic. I don't think the guy playing Han Solo looks or sounds like Han Solo. I don't like the way the Millennium Falcon looks, but we'll see if it kind of looks like the old one by the end of the movie. We'll see. I mean, I'm going in with an open mind. Star Wars is in a rough place for me. It's at a crossroads, if you will, after Last Jedi. You know, I'm apprehensive right now. I've realized now that Star Wars can get fucked up. And I mean, if people are listening are going to say, well, what about The Phantom Menace? What about Attack of the Clones? Yeah, but I was young and easily led astray, and I was so drunk on my own fandom that I was willing to overlook those movies. I'm sober now. I'm not drunk on the fandom anymore. You know, I look at these movies very critical. I want these movies to not suck. I'm not saying Last Jedi sucked. I'm not willing to say that, but it wasn't good.
I mean, people that tell me that The Last Jedi is better than The Force Awakens...
Insanity.
I question that because The Force Awakens... Okay, so even if you are one of these diehard canon reading, you know, motherfuckers that think it's just a complete ripoff of the first movie, it made the franchise fun again.
Yeah, I totally agree.
And it introduced some really cool characters.
Yeah, and it had that perfect blend of nostalgia. You know, like the prequels in 1999, that was like the big deal. I mean, Star Wars was back, but we saw the trailers and we didn't recognize any of these motherfuckers. We didn't even recognize Obi-Wan Kenobi. He was a different guy. This time we had Han coming back, Leia coming back, Luke coming back, R2, all those guys, C-3PO, you know.
All right, if I'm an idiot for falling into nostalgia, then call me an idiot. I'll gladly take it because The Force Awakens is, I would say, at least 10 times better a movie than The Last Jedi.
I don't know
if not more.
I don't know if I'd go that far, but it's a significantly better movie. You know, if it's raining here and I can't go outside to play, I am going to pull Force Awakens off the shelf way more than Last Jedi. The only time I'm going to rewatch Last Jedi is when I'm doing like a rewatch of the whole franchise. It's not fun. It's just not an enjoyable film to sit and watch. I like the Jedi stuff, but
I watched the thing 3 times in the theater. I kept going back.
Does it get worse for you every viewing?
Maybe I missed something.
Yeah.
And every time I go, it's like, oh man, that's even worse than the first time.
Yeah. If I remember, you were much more kinder to it when we did the podcast than I was. I mean, I was down on it when I came out of the theater when we recorded it back in December. I was very down on it, but
I was huge down on it.
Maybe it was Ernest that I'm thinking of. I think Ernest was a lot more optimistic than we were. We'll see how he does with this one, but I don't know. We're planning on doing that next week, right?
Yeah.
So we will be around for that. We are actually going to kind of get back in the rotation here. Plus, we got Ant-Man and Wasp coming up soon. How do you feel about that one?
I don't know.
No sign of Ant-Man in Infinity War. Him and Hawkeye didn't turn up at all. I don't know. I assume that was intentional, but they're mentioned, but they don't show up.
Yeah, I bet that's because they're going to be in the next one.
Could be. That would make sense. So, I don't know. I'm excited, man. I'm excited about Marvel. We'll see what Solo can do. We will be back. Johnny Goodtimes is back. Everybody should be excited about that.
Well,
but, so there will be 20 people that are excited about it, but most of them are family members, of course. But
yeah.
All right, man. You got anything else you want to say about Star Wars, about Infinity War, about Deadpool, about the Las Vegas Golden Knights? Man, we covered a lot of territory today. This is one of our longest shows, and you know we did it without a guest.
Yeah,
and I think it went well.
All right, I think so as well.
So, I think that's all I got. How about you?
That's all I got.
All right, man. We are planning on, like I just said, being back this weekend for Solo. Check that out. Planning on recording probably on Friday, so I will post that immediately. Thanks a lot for checking us out tonight. Hit us up on Twitter. I'm at Rye Hamner. He is at Come Wicked. Don't come at us with the Last Jedi love. We don't need that stuff right now.
Yeah.
But, all right. Thanks a lot for listening, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Stay at Ace.